All right, I think we're working. Should have some people watching over here. Let me know in chat if this is coming through. I think we should be okay. All right, I think we're in. Okay, I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com, and welcome to another live video here on YouTube. I got an interesting question from a learner, and I wanted to talk about that in this video. Let me know in the chat if that's working. I think it should be. Let me see if we're on YouTube. And I think we are. All right. So we're going to talk about how to know when you're fluent in English. George, look at that. George, how are you always first? How do you do that? You must be like sitting by your computer or phone. You just have the phone open and ready. Salwan, nice to see you there. All right. Let's see, who else am I missing over here? Oh, nice to see everybody there. Wendy, Diana Mohammed, and do I know you? Hello from England, Wellington. Look at that, everybody coming in. Nice to see everybody here. So I want to make this like kind of a video with you all to answer any questions you might have. Because the truth is, you really know if you're fluent in English in general by knowing how fluent you are in the individual words and phrases that you learn. And so you might be fluent or feeling confident about one phrase or one expression, one grammar point, something, but you might not feel fluent in something else. And fluently or fluency, it really just means that you feel confident. There are no doubts about that particular word or phrase or pronunciation, whatever that is, and you can use that thing confidently. And so when you remove the doubt, whatever doubts you might have, then the confidence comes out, and you do this in individual words and phrases. Now, I thought about making a video about this because I got an interesting question from a Fluent for Life member. And this was just talking about, I'll put the example up here. I'm going to change the example a little bit just to make it a little bit shorter, but I'll give you kind of a quick quiz at the start of this video, and then we'll take it from there. Synonyms of English, please send us. Just Google that. You don't need me to tell you what synonyms are, or I guess examples of them. All right, so this question, it was actually a really good question because it actually demonstrated how fluent this learner is in these particular grammar points. So even though he had some uncertainty, and this was actually kind of wrong uncertainty from the teachers, and I'll show you this in a moment. So this was, let me see if I remember the exact example, but again, I will change this slightly just to make it a little bit simpler. So the nurses, let's see here, so this is a quiz, make sure we can fit this in here. The nurses returned let's just call the guy, we'll just call him Tom. So the first sentence is here, the nurses returned in the morning and found Tom dead. The nurses returned in the morning and found Tom dead. So that's sentence one, and we'll put sentence two over here. They being the nurses, I'll just make this very simple. They told John that he would have a new roommate soon. Okay, so these are actually even a little bit too complicated. I should really make them shorter and easier than this, but it should be an interesting example for you. Now, these sentences are correct. What was interesting is that the learner, this Fluent for Life member, was saying that in some like English writing class, he got this as a question, and the question was, To connect these two sentences, do we use and, or, but, or so? And, or, but, or so. So if we want to connect these into one sentence, which of these would be correct? I'll give you a moment just to try and answer that. Which of those do you think is correct and why, if you want to add that? So which of these is correct? So the nurses returned in the morning and found Tom dead. They told John he would have a new roommate soon. So just to make this a little bit easier for you, we imagine a hospital room here with 2 beds. So one guy, this is one person, you can imagine they're kind of lying down like this, that's the head, and the other guy over here. So this is, we'll just say this is Tom over here, and this is John. So the nurses come in the morning, and they see Tom, so we'll put Tom over here, Tom. So Tom is dead. Oh no, he's got the little X eyes on him, and John is still alive. So they're both in the hospital room, and the nurses come in and they find that Tom is dead and John is still alive. John is okay. And they tell John, you will have a new roommate soon. So Tom, I guess they take him out of the hospital room. And so which of these is correct? So I guess the people or the teacher who gave this kind of writing example said one of those was correct. Which one do you think it is? So again, the nurses returned in the morning, so maybe at nighttime the previous day, they were both awake, both alive, but when the nurses came back, Tom was dead and John was still alive. All right, Monica says, and anybody just go ahead, put your answers up there right now. Let's see here. All right, I'll answer any more questions over here. All right, so nice to see you guys. All right, so Mr. Learner, well, that's a great name. Sir, you are amazing. Well, you guys are too kind. Mahesh, nice to see you there. Mohammed says, okay. Diana, we got a Diana and a Diana. That's amazing. Hello, the best English teacher in the world. You guys are too kind. I'm so happy to be here. Well, welcome. Ella says, howdy, Drew. How have you been? I'm just in time. Yes, welcome to the party. I'm doing well. Hopefully you are doing well, too. B2R can't. Do you know a second language, maybe more? I speak Japanese. And I know a little bit of maybe Spanish and French, but I couldn't speak those very well. Hey, Knight. Let's see. No Voice is great to be part of the English Interchange. Welcome. Late but useful. No, we just got started. Don't worry about it. The lovely Heart Eyes from Roberta. Nice to see you there. How can I learn pronunciation? If you'd like to learn about pronunciation, just get Frederick. You'll see the link to this in the description below this video, but this will train you the same way natives learn pronunciation, so if you'd like to do that. So I'm Tom, no dead. What time is it there? Mohammed asks, what time is it here? It is 9:57 a.m. I got started a little bit earlier today. Also, the next video should be on the 29th here in Japan time, so put that on your calendar. All right, let's see. All right, so Monica said, and since John is still alive, the first one is true. Well, both of these are correct. These are both correct English. There's nothing wrong with these. The question is, how can we connect them as one sentence? Would we say, the nurses returned in the morning and found Tom dead, and they told John that he would have a new roommate soon? Or do we say, the nurses returned in the morning and found Tom dead, or they told John, probably we wouldn't use or. Let's just cancel that one. That sounds a little bit weird. It sounds a little bit weird. Or but. So the nurses returned in the morning and found Tom dead, but they told John that he would have a new roommate soon. Or so. So they found a new roommate for John, so we can connect this with so. So which one of these would we put and, but, or so in here? All right, let me answer a few more questions and then I'll give you my answer. All right, looks like we have a couple of things here. So John is still alive. Okay, we answered that one already. Let's see, we got so. Hi from Nicaragua. Hello from Haiti. Hi from Brazil. How are you doing today? I'm doing well. What is the word? All right, I think I answered that. But and so. So is the correct one. All right, why? Now here's the interesting thing. All right, here's the interesting thing. So in the example, so in this kind of test example, or maybe it was from a textbook or something, the answer the teacher gave was but. The answer the teacher gave was but. So the nurses returned in the morning and found Tom dead. They told John that he would have a new roommate soon. Now, if we're only looking at just these two sentences by themselves, all three of these are possible. All three of them could be correct. It actually depends on the mood you're going for. So do we want to say it's like a positive thing, or we want to say maybe it's like a not so positive thing? It depends. So we could actually use all three of these. And the interesting thing was that this learner was a little bit confused because the teacher said the answer was but it could be really any of those. All right. So often when we get examples like this, and we will see this on tests, and this is why it can be frustrating for me as a teacher. Sometimes I will look at English tests and I will be wondering why the test is written the way it is, because you could actually have multiple correct answers, but they will be looking for one correct thing, which is usually how a test works. But often you could have more than one correct answer. So let's look at all three of these, and the reason I want to highlight this is because this learner, this Fluent for Life member, is correct. He is correct that you could use all three of these, all right? So we could have all of these. We're just connecting these, and really the point here is, do we have a solid understanding, a feeling of what's correct, okay, a sense of what's correct, when we could say something and then we have a good way to explain why that is. So often, like a native speaker, they might not be able to explain particular grammar rules, but they usually just know. They have a sense for what's correct, and my job is to kind of be both, like to know what's correct and also be able to explain what's correct. So in this sentence here, we've got the nurses returned in the morning and found Tom dead, and so we could put and here to connect these two. See, these are just two things together. And so, or and, they told John that he would have a new roommate. Okay? So that you could, it's still grammatically correct, it's logical, there's nothing really confusing about this, it's just two pieces of information, and we're connecting that with and. Okay? So very simple. We could also say but, if we're talking about, like in the morning the nurses came back, and maybe they're talking about how John feels about that. So maybe he feels sad. So this situation up here, or I guess this situation specifically of Tom being dead, it would be like a difficult thing for John, who's still lying down in the room next to him. And so the feeling is like, so the nurses came back, oh no, he's dead. They don't want to panic, but they're just saying like, it's okay, don't worry, you will have someone here, you will have like a new person here very soon, okay? So in that sense, we might prefer but. So the nurses returned in the morning and found Tom dead, but they told John that he would have a new roommate soon. Okay, so in this, the usage of but is really just to make Tom, or I guess John, feel better. Okay, so you could make a but to connect these two things, but again, this learner, this Fluent for Life member, was a little bit concerned because, well, but typically means like the opposite. It was raining, but I went for a walk anyway. Okay, but again, we're talking about something where the mood, it could really be any of these things. So we might have but here. So the one person is dead, but we want to feel or make this other person feel better. Okay, and then same thing with so. So if we use so here as well, so this is something that happened, and then this becomes the conclusion of that thing or the response to that thing. Okay. So the nurses returned in the morning and found Tom dead, so they told John that he would have a new roommate soon. Now, even here, so it could sound a little bit awkward where they're just saying like, well, I guess he's dead and now you get a new roommate. So it's not like a direct response to that, but again, it's logical. You could say something like that. All right. So again, the feeling, what we're going for here is to become fluent in individual words and phrases like this is when you develop a sense where you feel confident, so you don't have any doubt where, oh, I could use this, or I could use that, or I could use something else. Okay? So if you feel confident and you have a good reason to support that, you could use any one of these in these examples. Okay? So I thought this was a really good exercise of something where, especially in a typical English lesson, you get something where you could have multiple correct answers, but often people really, they were just kind of forced to choose one. But I like to do this when I'm taking tests or whatever. I try to find holes or things like that where I can say, no, you actually could use this other one over here, especially if the teacher says I'm wrong. All right, let me go back and answer some of these. All right, let's see. Hello from Turkey. It's 4 a.m. here, so I'm dead. Have a nice day. Oh, no. All right, I think so. Fill in correctly. I believe the nurse killed Tom. No, I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe. This is not like a murder mystery example. It could be, though. All right, Alondra says, I believe, but fits better because they told that to John before knowing Tom was dead. Well, we don't know that for sure. All we know is these pieces of information. So the nurses returned in the morning and found Tom dead. Maybe John knew he was dead already. We don't know. But they told John, so they found him dead, and then they told John, you will have a new roommate soon. All right. Let's see. And Davidson from Brazil. Nice to hear, Mohammed. I'm a beginner, so I can't understand fluency speakers. You mean fluent speakers. If you are a beginner, this might not be the right video for you. This is really for people who know a lot of English already, but they still lack the confidence to speak. They still have some kind of uncertainty about that. So I also invite anyone here now, if you do have questions about anything, it could be questions about this example or anything else that you have uncertainty about. So it could be a word or a grammar point or something. If it's not something that's easily found on Google, I can probably help you solve it faster here. Let's see, Jaya from Gambia, nice to see you there. I request you to read slowly. The nurse returned in the morning and found Tom dead. They told John that he would have a new roommate soon. Okay, so that's our simple example over here. All right, Quang says hello from Vietnam. Let's see if I'm pronouncing that right. Ruku. I felt the three could go, but thought you were looking for a unique answer. Yeah, so again, this is a tricky thing that happens when a teacher is giving you a test. You're thinking, like, what is the answer the teacher is looking for? And when you're fluent, like a native speaker taking the same test would say, wait a minute, it could be all three of these things. The meaning would be maybe slightly different, and we could maybe say that, like, maybe but is more appropriate, but it really depends on, we just need more information. Becca says, Andrew, may I also say they found Tom was dead? Yes, they found Tom was dead. So typically, we just say they found Tom dead. They found him dead. Because, I mean, you could say they found Tom was dead like it's in the past, but Tom, he's still dead right now. So Tom is dead as well. I heard they will marry soon versus I hear they will marry soon. Both of those are correct. So that's a good question. So in that case, we're talking about maybe I heard something from somebody. Maybe it was like a while ago that you heard it, but even if it was a while ago, often we will, I think I gave a talk about this a while ago, but talking about telling stories where you're explaining something as if it's happening in the present, because it makes it more interesting for the people listening to it. As an example, if I'm telling a story about something that happened maybe even years ago, so I was at a restaurant and Batman came into the restaurant. So I could describe the story that way. I was at the restaurant and Batman came. So those are both just the simple past. I was in the restaurant. Batman came into the restaurant. Or I could tell it as if it's happening now, even though it's not happening now. It's just a way of telling the story where I say, so here I am. I'm at this restaurant and Batman comes into the restaurant. So it feels a lot different. It's like, wow, I'm telling the story as if it's happening right now, and it feels more interesting to listen to because we connect more with things that are happening now rather than something in the past. So you could tell the story both ways. And in the same example where we're talking about, I heard some friend is doing this. So yes, like you at some point in the past, you heard something, a friend of yours told you some information, and then now you could also describe it as, oh, I hear you're doing something. Again, if we try to bring something more to the present, we usually connect with people a little bit better because it's something that's happening right now as if it's like news or new information, okay? So I hear you're doing well in school. I hear you're doing well in school. Even though I didn't hear it immediately, I heard it actually from your parents or something. I heard it, but I can describe that if I'm talking to somebody's son. Hey, I hear you're doing well in school. So like it's again connecting with the present, and both of those things are fine. But it's kind of in the theme of this video where we're talking about the sense that you have about grammar. So when you, or not just grammar, but really any vocabulary, and when you feel, I have like a good sense of this. So I'm able to say both of those. I could use the past, or I could talk about something happening right now because I feel confident and I understand what I'm saying for both of those things. Okay, so there's a level where you're learning a language and you say, oh, that's interesting. Like you have a question about, did you hear something? Or so like you heard or I hear. And so you know that both of those could be used in a conversation, but you might not know why. That's where the doubt comes in. But as you understand more, oh, so one is just talking about a moment in the past where I heard something, and now I'm just describing it like it's happening right now just because it's more interesting to listen to that way. All right? So hopefully that clears up some of that doubt. Let me know if that makes sense. All right, let's see. Igor says, hello from Brazil. When will the next live teaching be? That will be, I think, the 29th of this month. Look at that. You got, I guess it's a leap year this year, a leap year. So we have 29 days in February rather than 28. Marinalva says, good afternoon. And Mohammed says, we use and for expressing subsequent events, right? Well, again, we could talk about a subsequent event, or we could just be connecting two things. I am 10 years old and I like fishing. There's nothing subsequent about that. It's just, here's two pieces of information. So this one, we're kind of telling a story, or we're trying to make some kind of connection, but these words actually become quite important to the mood of that story. So we don't know actually a lot of information. We don't know if Tom knew, or I guess if John knew that Tom is dead. Maybe he did, maybe he did not. So maybe they found him dead. John did not know, and so they told John it's okay. All right. So you might probably think like so or but would be better answers here, especially if we're telling a story. Typically when you're telling a story, we have like, so and something happens, but something happens, therefore something else happens. So you're telling a story where there's something going on, but there's a problem, and then therefore we create some kind of new challenge or a solution or something like that. All right, so we typically wouldn't just list and, it would be boring. We want to have a story where we're explaining something. This is called the setup, the setup of the story. So what happens, and then this is like the conclusion of the story. So this thing, therefore, this thing happens over here. So Tom died, therefore, we're going to let him know, or let John know that he will have a new roommate soon. This is kind of a sad example. We could probably find something simpler and easier, but what's interesting, the point really here is that I want you to think more about these various things, and as you come to understand them very well, that's how you really become fluent. So you become fluent in the word and. You become fluent in the word but. You become fluent in the word so. And your fluency continues to develop as you get more examples. All right? And so this usually happens as we get different examples, various examples using a word like and or but or so. that make us feel confident, that answer our questions, that remove our doubts about these particular words. So whatever they are. And then as you become fluent in more words and phrases, you can really say you're becoming fluent in the language as a whole. Hopefully that makes sense. That's the basic idea of this video. All right, let's see. Mohammed says, if I learn English, can I understand all books of English? Well, I suppose, there's a difference between being able to read something and knowing what it means. So I could put a word up here, maybe you could read it, you could sound out the word, but you might not know what that means. So just because you know how to pronounce everything or read it doesn't mean you would know, like you couldn't really understand all of the language. So in theory, I guess, yes, you could potentially learn things, but there's probably a lot you would not still know. Rita says, do you give private classes, please? No, I do not. The reason I don't give private classes because they're typically not a good way for you to feel confident for regular communication. And so the biggest reason for this is you need to have exposure to lots of different native speakers. So you can't only listen to me and really any person you would be having private lessons with. It would give you slower, easier English. And maybe you would understand a little bit more, but the English in a lesson would be very different from how the language really is in movies or TV shows or real conversations. So again, like we prepare everybody for this in Fluent for Life, and it's much faster and easier to learn that way because I'm basically giving you lots of what I call fluency triggers. It's really just a way of helping you understand the language by removing the doubt you have about it. And so as you get lots of examples, you feel more confident about pronunciation, listening, grammar, vocabulary, all of that, because you're getting so many different examples from different native speakers. So that's, and again, like if you want to have a private teacher, that's great to help you understand things like I'm doing in this video, but it's only one level. It's like the first level of understanding things. So the kinds of things that I teach, like I do here, you will find that in Fluent for Life, plus lots of examples with other native speakers that are not teachers, just regular people talking, that will help you understand the language the same way natives do. So if your goal is to be a confident speaker, you really need to be kind of putting that in, or putting yourself in that position the same way natives would be. Let's see. Bird says, who will be the next president of USA? I don't know. I'm not really happy about anybody running, so I don't know. maybe none of the above. Nobody that's I don't know. We'll see. But I can't imagine Biden surviving, like physically surviving. Like Biden would be in this example. Like the nurses returned in the morning and found Biden. I mean, he would be like 90 years old or something like that, and he's already having trouble. So I don't know. Thanks for having explained. Okay, got it. Make sure. Again, my goal here is to make sure everybody has that understanding, and that's when you feel confident about using something. That's when you become a confident speaker. All right, let's see. Mama says, I'm in Kenya. I can't understand African people there. I can't understand. That's a question, or you're telling me that? And Becca says, is it correct to say they found him had been dead for 2 hours? Or you would just say they found he had been dead for 2 hours, I guess, but like that's making it kind of unnecessarily complicated. So if they found Tom dead, you could say like they found he had been dead, but that's more like the discovery of how long he had been dead for. All right, so just to make this very clear, the nurses walk into the room. Let's say they walk into the room at like 3 o'clock. Oh no, it's in the morning. Better example. Let's just say it's 7 a.m. So the nurses come into the room at 7 a.m. and they say, "Oh no, Tom is dead." So at that point, they found him. So this is the first example of finding him dead. So they found him dead, like they found him, and just like it just means that that's the condition or like whatever he was, the situation he was in. So I might walk into my like my daughter's room where they're playing, and I find them playing a game. So it's just, what are they doing when I see them? All right, so it's not like just an example for dying or anything. This is just what is the state or condition or situation? What are they doing when you see them? Okay, so I found him dead. This is why we have it just very simple like this. So I found somebody dead. Or I found someone sitting on a chair, or I found him watching TV. Typically, we say kind of found here, it's like a discovery. So we notice something, oh no, here's a problem. Like I walk into my kitchen and I find my wife standing on the kitchen table. So that's a surprising thing. Whoa, like it's like I could say, yes, I saw my wife standing on the kitchen table, but I also found her on the kitchen table. It's a little bit surprising. So this is the first instance of finding something, but maybe after they do some research or they test, okay, his heart stopped at 3 o'clock. So they found he had been dead for 4 hours in that case. So these are just two different times. Like the first one is they're discovering something, like the situation the person is in. And then the second example is they maybe did some research or did some checking. They looked at his medical, maybe there's some little computers or information that know, oh, okay, he stopped breathing and his heart stopped at 7 or at 3 o'clock. So that's where, like, that's why you would probably not want to put both of those ideas in the same sentence, if that makes sense. So the nurses return in the morning to find him dead, or they say and found him dead. But we could also say later, we found he had died at 3 o'clock. So we found, or we discovered, or we learned, the computer gave us that information, he had died. Or you can just use the simple past. We found he died at 7 o'clock or 3 o'clock, whenever. Okay. So slightly different. We want to try to communicate as simply and clearly as possible, but we may have, again, we want to be clear what the situation is. Are we talking about just seeing him dead, or we want to actually talk about when we discovered by maybe some additional information or something like that? All right, that's a good question, though. Gabriela says, hello from Uruguay. Let's see, is my sentence not correct? When will be next live teaching, please? What would be the correct form of this sentence? Or you can just say, when is your next lesson? Very simple. When is your next lesson? Or you could say, when will the next lesson be? Or when will the next live video be? Both of those are fine. Remember that there's not just one correct way to express something. Typically, we can express things in many different ways, just like you do in your native language. All right, looks like we've got some Thai there that I can't read. Fran says, but it's possible because they didn't want to say John that time, or they didn't want to tell John. In this case, you would say don't want to tell John that Tom had been dead and decided to make him believe he was changed to another room. So is more simple since it coordinates the first idea. Yeah, it's still a little bit too complicated, and this is not enough information to tell us like anything. We can imagine that for sure, but it's not enough information. Wellington says, I begun watch your classes with Velocity in YouTube 75. Now I'm understanding you well. You mean the speed, like the video speed. So you mean you're listening to my videos a little bit more slowly at 75% speed. Is that what you mean? Yeah, I'm glad you're improving. Dana says the word or is a conjunction that connects two or more possibilities or alternatives. For example, which do you prefer, English or Spanish? Yes. That's why or is probably not a good example here. That's an obvious no. So we wouldn't say this or that, but we can look at these other examples and see how those are correct. So yes, typically it's good that you know that, or maybe you got that from Google or whatever, but it's more important to develop the sense for what's correct. So like, when do we say or? When do we say and? It's like, I want you to think about it like a native speaker, because that's when you know you're fluent. All right, so you know you're fluent in these particular things when you know, okay, I should use and for this or whatever the example is. All right, what is the best way to become fluent in English? You need to eliminate the doubt that you have. about words, phrases, grammar points, etc. So that's what we do in these videos and in Fluent for Life. Mohammed says, is the second sentence as a consequence for the first one? Isn't? Well, yes. So it's basically like a consequence. It could be seen as a consequence where we say so, but we could also say it as like as a kind of a contrasting thing, or and again, like we could still use but even with a consequence. It's just more in that case, but would be talking about the feeling that the nurses are trying to give John. So John maybe feels bad, so they came in, oh no, like, we're sorry, we see he died, but don't worry, we will give you a new person. All right, so it sounds a little bit nicer if you change that example. If I say, oh, the nurses came in, they found John, or they found Tom dead. I should have given them better. He's like typical English name from a textbook or whatever. So Tom, they found him dead. If we use so, then it sounds like they don't care as much. All right, we call this reading into something. To read into. When you read into, it means you're kind of putting your own ideas into a situation. You're trying to guess or think about what they might be thinking. You're imagining something. So maybe I see something that's not really there. I'm reading too much into it. But for this example, we can have a little bit of fun with this. So you can imagine the two nurses come into the room. They find Tom dead. So they told this other guy, okay, well, we'll give you somebody new. So it sounds a little, you might use the word like, I don't know, callous or depressing, or like the nurses don't really care. Okay, we will take this dead guy out and bring a new person in for you, So instead of putting so here, but makes it sound a little bit friendlier and nicer. So, oh no, like a child drops their ice cream on the floor, so we'll get you a new one. Okay, so where we're talking about the conclusion of something, a child drops the ice cream on the floor, and we'll give you a new one, or so we'll give you a new one. Both of those would be fine, and or so. But takes a little bit of time to offer some care or empathy for the child, or for John in this case. So the child drops the ice cream on the floor. Oh, but don't worry. But don't worry, we'll get you a new one. Okay? So if a child drops the ice cream on the floor and the parent just says, so we'll get you a new one. There's less feeling there, there's less care, and so the parent would feel like you would feel like they care less. All right, so it feels like someone would care more in this sentence. So I could see why the teacher would give them but as like the most appropriate answer, but you really can make the case that all three of these are okay. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. But you can see how by spending more time on these words, you start to feel more confident about them. So the goal is not to be thinking like we got to study as many words as possible. We really have to understand a few words really well, and then we start building on that. Okay. I think people are getting it though. All right. The whole goal of this video is to demonstrate that we really become fluent in individual words and phrases as we remove doubt, as we develop understanding, we feel confident about those things. That's when we start speaking. All right. Okay, here. Be nice with Biden, please. Well, I'm not. I don't care about Biden or Trump. But I mean, I'm just saying, looking at Biden, I would be worried about Biden if I was sleeping in a hotel, or not a hotel room. If I was sleeping in a hospital room with Biden, I would worry that the nurses would come in and tell me, "Oh no, we'll get you a new roommate soon." Just because he just doesn't look well, and they're not doing a very good job of hiding that. But we'll see. I feel a little embarrassed as an American. Let's see if I answered that one already. All right, Bird says, I hope Trump and America will be great again. We'll see. I don't know if Trump will make America great again. He does talk a big game, coming from like business and marketing though. All right. Can I say my pain subside or mitigate? Well, mitigate typically means like you might still have a problem, but you put like you cover up the pain somehow. But if the pain itself is subsiding, the actual pain is going away. All right, and this is why it's important to really dig deep into words and understand what that is. So if I want to mitigate a problem, the problem might still be there. Let's say I'm driving. So I need to like drive to work over here. Here's a road. I could go this way, this way. So there's maybe like a traffic accident right here. I can kind of mitigate that by going around it. The traffic accident is still there. But if the traffic, I mean, we wouldn't really say the accident subsides, but in a similar way, that if it disappears, then the actual problem is gone. Okay. So be careful, number one, to get good definitions of things if you're unsure about them, but the more important thing is to get lots of examples of those, all right? I actually think I talked about mitigate in a previous or recent video. All right, let's see, that's a good question though. All right, my main fear is the TOEFL IBT. All right, well, go study for it then. All right, you got to think, remember, try not to think about like the test, like what are specific things that you're unsure about. Focus on those. That's the point of this video. You don't really get fluent in English. You actually get fluent in individual words and phrases as you understand them better, and you can think about that in the same way for a test. So typically, you would be feeling confident about some things for the test, but maybe not others. All right. Hello, I'm Sue from Korea. Nice to see you there. Hi, says a cute Bhavana. Hello, look at that. All right, is it alive? I don't know what that's referring to. Let's see. Niv says, I can understand a book only if I read 2 times or more. Why? How to improve that, sir? Well, it could be the kinds of books you're reading are too complicated. You should start with something simpler that you can understand more easily. But sometimes books, even for native speakers, if you're reading something more challenging, then that would be a reason why you would have trouble with that. All right, I have a question. Says Sue over here. Let's see. When I read a sentence, I know all of those words in a sentence, but I can't understand the sentence. What's the problem, you think? The most likely reason is because you learned English as a second language, so it's not your fault. I'm guessing this with just this one example. But typically, what will happen is like a person who's learning English as a second language, so they're learning English through, like you would be learning it through Korean, probably maybe in school you studied English. I think actually now English it's like widely taught much more, even like more than Japan in Korea. So I think there might be better speakers over there. I don't know for sure. I don't know much about Korea, but I do know that most people are still studying English the traditional way. So they're not learning it as a first language. They're learning it through a second language. So what happens is when people are learning English as a second language, they will get something like this and they will think, okay, the nurses return, and they're kind of translating each of these things in their head, and it becomes more difficult to understand the whole situation. Okay, so that's a big reason why that happens to a lot of people. I would need more information to diagnose that further, but that's typically why that happens. How do I get fluent with phrasal verbs? Typically, we get fluent in phrasal verbs the same way we get fluent in anything else, and this is by getting lots of examples that we can understand. So as an example, if we're talking about, like here's a simple example of a phrasal verb. This is fall down. So you see the marker is moving straight down like that, like snow or leaves or rain, it's falling down. But here we have fall over. So when the marker's, it goes to the side like that, like a tree falling over or a person falling over like that. So here, without me trying to use your native language, I'm able to explain just by showing you how it works. So these are called fluency triggers, and this is where we're helping you understand something where you really feel confident about using it. So that's how you would get fluent in phrasal verbs. Once you understand the physical usage of that, which is where typically phrasal verbs are coming from, and this is why often little kids are learning phrasal verbs as a way to build their vocabulary. But the thing you would do next is you would take something like that, like, oh no, like the economy is falling down, okay? or like the economy is, you could say it's like falling over, or like their success or something is becoming worse. So we can take a physical idea like fall down, and then take that like, I don't know, like our relationship like fell apart. All right, so we had something, and then like it just crumbled into many pieces. So a building or something old could fall apart. So we have a building with, it's one structure, but then it falls into many pieces like that. So it fell apart. But we can also talk about a relationship falling apart as well. So this is how natives learn the language. And if you do the same thing, you will learn to understand these things the same way natives do. Let's see. Becca again says, in my area, the nurses would definitely use so in such cases. Becca, have you ever been, or have you ever gone back to Chicago along with your kids? No, I have not. I've actually not taken my kids back to Chicago. Marco says, hi, Drew. This is Eduardo from Mexico. I've been following your videos for so long. Very good. Thank you. Welcome. You would say for such a long time. For such a long time. Very good. I guess you kind of could say like for so long, but usually it's like for such a long time. Is it live? Or if you're talking about the video right now, it is, unless you're watching this later, in which case it's not. All right. Hello from Brazil, says Fabio. Mama says, nothing has happened. The nurse care much about John comfortably rather than the tragedy of the dad. Yes, you are reading into, you're reading too much into it. So we don't know what's happening. I'm sure nurses have to deal with this situation sometimes. They come into a room and there are multiple patients, so 2 or more patients in the same room, and they have to say, oh no, somebody died, or maybe they don't even tell the patient. I don't know what nurses do. I'm not a nurse. We need to get a nurse on here and answer that question, I guess. All right, Fabio with the nice emoji there. Hello, says David. Thales says, what is the difference between for instance and for example? I get in this situation, like if you're just, and this is why it's always tricky when people just say, what's the difference between these two words or something, because words typically have multiple uses. But for instance, or for example, I could use them really to mean the same thing. I'm just giving one example of something. For instance, or for example, typically if I'm saying, like if I want to give a grammar example, yesterday I went to the store and I bought something, or I like to buy like snacks or something. Like for example, I like to get, I don't know. Actually, I guess, so here, if I was gonna, I'm trying to think about the native way to explain this to people, but the best way to understand things like this, as I've explained before, is like, we have, this is called a Venn diagram, where we have like for instance, let's see, instance, an example over here. In general, the best way to understand the difference between these two, or if they are the same, or when they can be used the same way or not, is just by getting lots of examples of these. And I'm not going to do that now, but just we're looking for like one counter example when they would not be used, just so we know that they could be used the same time, but maybe they can't in other situations. So let's say, going back to the store example, so I go to a store, I like to buy snacks. For example, I like to buy, I don't know, candy bars. So candy bars. All right, so I like to buy candy bars. So for example, so I wouldn't when I'm talking about like a list of things, like these are some of my supplies I use for teaching. For example, I use a whiteboard or a marker or something like that. So that's for example. All right. So if I'm giving a list of something, like I wouldn't really say for instance, like I need to buy some clothes after work today. And a person says like, oh, for example, like what do you need to buy? So that if I'm talking about a list of physical things or something I need to do, people wouldn't typically say for instance for that. But they would use for instance or for example if we're talking about like things I need to do or like things I've done for my job. So it's typically like some kind of action or something that I'm doing. So what kind of things do you do at work? Well, sometimes, like for instance, I shovel snow. Or for example, I shovel snow. So in this case, I'm talking about things that I do. I would be able to use for instance, because an instance of something is like it's talking about an action when something happens. And an example could be talking about an action, or it could be talking about a list of something. All right. I don't want to spend too much time explaining this, but when you're looking at words like this, your goal to develop this sense, to feel fluent, to feel confident about when you should use one or the other, you should spend time on things like this, trying to get many examples. So if you Google a bunch of examples, you're looking at what is the pattern here? What are the what is the connection between these things? Okay, so if I go like anytime I hear for example, it's usually like a list of things, or it could be a list of activities. But when I hear for instance, I typically only hear like a list of activities. Okay, so something is happening rather than like, okay, I have some different colors with me. Like what colors do you have? Oh, I have, for example, I have a blue, red, black, yellow. All right, but for instance, I wouldn't say, oh, like for instance, I have blue. Like that would sound weird because this is just a physical thing. It's an object. It's not like an action. Okay. So remember, an instance of something is when something happens, like an instantaneous thing. It's happening right now. Okay. Now that was a kind of long explanation, and you should even go deeper. I recommend. All right. So this is what I'm doing when I'm trying to understand things in Japanese. You get more examples. All right. So you could get a definition of something, but you don't really develop the sense for when to use something correctly from a definition. Okay, I bet like you might even, if you look up both of these words, you would probably get like maybe a similar definition for both of them. But it's the examples you get that really tell you, oh, this is for, I develop a sense for these kind of examples. This is when I could use something, and this is when I would probably not use it. All right. Does that make sense? The chat got kind of quiet. Hopefully people are following this. But again, if you watch a lot of YouTube videos that are teaching you things, it will typically be like a list of words. Hey guys, today we're going to learn 20 phrases, and I'm going to just tell you the word. Here's an example or two. Maybe we repeat the phrase and then we go on to the next thing. But that doesn't really help you learn anything. I'm like, the teacher is not really providing you what you really need, which is certainty about that thing. So until you get certainty, you will not feel confident using that thing. You will find something else to say. All right. And natives are the same way. So if they don't feel confident about something, then they will not feel happy or comfortable about saying something. So if you're watching videos, the reason teachers make videos like this is because everybody wants to learn more vocabulary. So everybody's always like, I need more, give me more vocabulary. Usually because they think if they learn more, or if they know more words, they will speak fluently. But hopefully this video shows you that the opposite is true. All right. So I don't want to look. I mean, we're just talking about a few words in this video. Really, I'm using many words, but we're talking about and, but, so, or here's another example. For instance versus for example. Okay. But the point is not to teach you a lot. Obviously, we want to learn many words, but the important thing is to make you feel confident, to be certain about that vocabulary. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. BGM says, it's my first time to attend your live lesson. Love it. If possible, provide us with a schedule for live sessions dates as just a wish in possible time. Again, thanks a lot. Again, the next video should be on the 29th. The 29th. Actually, this will probably be, I usually don't, I never do this. I never do this, ever. But this is you can see some Japanese on here. This is my actual schedule for the videos next month. So you can take a screenshot of this. There's actually Japanese on here, but these are all the dates for March. So we've got, it's like the 4th, 7th, 11th, 14th, 18th, 21st, 25th, and 28th of March. Okay. There you go. For people asking for a schedule over there. All right. Iranti says, where can I find content like example of words in context? There is an app or something, help just search in the internet. Yes, so you can do, just Google will give you, obviously, it will give you lots of examples. Chat GPT as well, or other, I mean, it's not just Chat GPT that has AI service like that. Or you could use Youglish. I'll write that up here for you if that fits. Let's see, where can they fit here? Youglish.com. So Youglish is helpful if you already know the vocabulary and you want to get more examples from that. Okay. All right. All right, David with a nice hand over there. Elson says, why interstellar main character dialogues are so hard to pick up even using subs? I watched How I Met Your Mother and understood without subs, though. I've never seen Interstellar, but I think it's that's a Christopher Nolan movie, I believe. And typically, especially a movie about space, they're probably it's like the content itself is just more difficult to understand. So it's not the language really. Maybe they're using some more difficult words, but it would be different than a TV drama. Sue says, I appreciate your answer. Glad to hear it. Let's see. Hello from Georgia. First time in live, so first time to be live, welcome here. Danny says, hey Drew, when was the last time you went to the USA? You've been living in Japan for many years, right? Yes, I was in, I think 2019. It was before COVID. I was back in the US. And I have not been back since, but I have had family come out to visit me here. And I've been in Japan on and off since 2003, so over 20 years now. Fabio says, do you think I can read the book Thornbirds? I don't know. You try to read it and tell me. Remember, if you're reading something, unless you just want to give yourself a challenge, it's much better if you understand most of the content already. So if you know the vocabulary, if you're reading a book and you understand at least 80 to 90%, this is what I recommend, so that any new information you can understand it easily from context without having to get a dictionary out every 5 minutes or more. Julio says, is flare up meaning getting bad? Again, like flare up, this is a phrasal verb where we think about like a fire or something getting larger, so to flare up. So you might have a small fire, but then it goes on to another building and like wow, flared up. So something becomes like bigger or more intense. And so you can take that, as I mentioned before in the phrasal verb example, where we take something, just like fall down, or I could talk about fall over or fall apart. And then I can use that physical thing to talk about something else, like a relationship or a company or something, like the company or the relationship fell apart. So it used to be connected, it was strong, now it's broken into many pieces, it fell apart. Okay, so the same thing with flare up. You have to think about when you would use it in a physical way. So like a fire physically flares up, but we could also talk about an argument flared up. So maybe like a meeting, at a meeting you have a few people, they're talking, and the president is talking with somebody else and they have a disagreement. So the president says, no, I don't think we should do that. But then, I don't know, the accountant says, well, we have to do that thing or the business will fail. So now, like it just flared up into a bigger argument. They start yelling at each other like that. So again, we really want to get many examples. This is the kind of thing we do in like, especially in the visual guide to phrasal verbs that I have, which is also in Fluent for Life. But everything there, it's really designed to help you understand things like a native. Let's see here. All right, Meg says, hi, studying English. Oh, you love studying English. Okay, from Brazil. Jose says, hey, Drew, you are a good teacher. Thanks for the videos. My pleasure. Juliet, I am late. Hi there. Looks like some Korean. That was a great explanation about instance and example. Very, very good. All right, glad to hear it. And again, get more examples. Go get more of them. I'm trying to be very quick about how I do this to make sure I can answer a lot of questions, but that's the basic idea, where you want to look for situations and patterns in those things. So when can we use the vocabulary, when we cannot, all right? When can we not use that vocabulary? Mahesh says, while speaking continuously, suddenly doesn't get an idea what to talk next. So how to manage the situation, for example, speaking in a large group discussion. I talk about this in other videos. Just look for that problem. I think it's like how to speak continuously or something. I talk about that though in other videos. News is not available in Indian currency, sir. I don't know what you're talking about. Subha says, hey, Ohio. Drew sends it. Ohio gozaimasu. Nice to see you there. Muhammad says the first sentence used past time, but the second sentence used conditional, but is a kind of chronology between them. Please explain that. The nurse returned in the morning and found Tom dead. Wait, what are you referring to? First sentence is a past, but the second use a condition. No, I don't know. You're referring to that, like the stuff on the board? I mean, it's just talking about the past. There's nothing conditional about that. It's not like if he wanted to do something, then something else or whatever. It's just like this happened. So the nurses returned in the morning and found him dead, and they told John he would have a new roommate soon. There's nothing conditional about that. Hi from Ukraine. I can't read the Cyrillic. Bridget says, hello to Drew, the doubt destroyer. Yes, the doubt destroyer. That's the problem. That's the problem we need to solve right there. MBO says, do you have phrasal verbs courses? Yes, I have a course called Visual Guide to Phrasal Verbs. It's included in Fluent for Life. How about Duolingo? Is it helpful for English? I can't really speak about Duolingo because I've never used it to try to learn a language, but I would imagine if you want to become a confident speaker, using an app like that is probably not going to help you very much. It might teach you some vocabulary, but remember the English or whatever language you're learning in an app is going to be different from how natives really speak. So the vocabulary will be faster. It will be more difficult to understand because they might actually be using slang or idioms or phrasal verbs or other things that you're not used to. So again, I can't really speak about that, but I don't think I've ever met anyone who is like, oh, I only used Duolingo and became a fluent speaker, or even that was like the main way they became fluent. So I don't know. I can't really speak much about it. Your class not available in Indian currency. Oh, well, if you're talking about buying courses from us, it's converted automatically during checkout. So we recommend, like, if you want to know how much it would be, whatever the program is, like xe.com is the shortest way for checking currency exchanges. It's just the shortest website I can give to people. So xe.com, if you want to look up how much the price of your, like, a program would be in your local currency. But everything is converted automatically at checkout. So it doesn't matter if you're in India, Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, whatever, like you would have the currency would be converted automatically. All right, let's see how we're doing for time. Look at that, 10:52. All right, look at that. I think we got through an hour. And hopefully people have a better understanding. I will give a quick recap as usual. Remember that the goal is to understand individual words and phrases really well, and you do this by getting many examples of them. You only need, is not like a specific number, it's just how many examples do you need to feel confident about something. And then I would still maybe get a few more. But the goal, when you feel confident, when you get that, what I call the aha moment, like, now I got it. When you feel that, that's when you become fluent in a particular thing. So as you get fluent in more words, phrases, grammar points, pronunciation, whatever cultural things, that's where you start feeling fluent in the language itself. Okay? That's the basic idea. Second says, hi Drew, how long it takes to child was born in EUA to speak fluent? EUA? You mean like the USA? Like a native child born? I mean, it probably takes the same anywhere. Usually children are learning to speak. You know, they start speaking, could be 1, 2, 3 years old, 4 years old. They can usually speak their language quite well. And again, it's because they hear lots of simple examples again and again and again, but from different people. Maybe they watch a TV show, or they're getting, it's the naturally varied review, as I call it, that learners are getting. And so the more of that you get, the naturally varied review will build your fluency much faster, because varied examples help you understand things from different angles rather than you just trying to repeat some vocabulary over and over again. So if you have one flashcard and you're trying to review something, it's less effective than like seeing different examples in context, or whatever helps you understand that thing well. How much, or you say, like you could say, how long did it take for me to have a good level of Japanese? Remember, just like I'm explaining in this video, I become fluent in individual words and phrases as I understand them. And once I started learning this way, I'm basically trying to learn English, or learn Japanese in my case, like a native Japanese speaker. So learning Japanese as a first language and trying to give my brain as many fluency triggers as I can. And so this is like the process of doing that for individual words and phrases. It could be very quick. It could be like a minute or less to become fluent in a particular thing, or it could take more time. There's some maybe grammar points that I still don't feel comfortable with. I just need to spend some time and get more examples of them. But in general, just to have good conversations with people, I don't know, like I think once I started learning Japanese as a first language, it was pretty quick. It was like a few weeks, really, and that was just starting to understand things. I would be speaking simply at first, and then having more like detailed conversations. So you'll see, maybe I'll be able to put it on the channel. I was on a Japanese TV show a few weeks ago, so we recorded it. I don't know when the episode will be coming out, but you can see I'm just like speaking normally, the way I would speak. But if I'm learning something new, it might take me a little bit of time to understand that and then to integrate that into my vocabulary, but it's a much faster process than learning the traditional way. So actually becoming fluent doesn't take as much time as people think. It's just, let's get right to the point of eliminating the doubt, destroying the doubt you have about vocabulary or grammar or pronunciation, and then you unlock the fluency automatically. So you're already trying to explain things. It's just you're really blocked because of doubt about whatever that thing is. So if you remove the doubt, you can start speaking pretty soon, actually, like within days, really. I mean, depending on how much you know or how confident you feel. Ibra says, man, thanks so much for helping me. A lot of respect from Saudi Arabia. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Maj says, what are the ways to know the level of fluency in English? I made a video about this as well, where I'm talking about the 3 levels of understanding. So you begin with exposure to the language, where you might not understand it, and then you go to awareness, where you can recognize information, and then you go to ownership. And people typically who watch my videos, they're between or maybe at the awareness level, but not at the ownership level, and it just means they still have some kind of doubt about the vocabulary. So you can go through these phrases very quickly. I could teach you something new, and you could understand it very quickly, and then like become a more confident speaker, or at least use that particular phrase fluently and confidently. All right. So the point is really to understand that thing very well. And if you get lots of examples, you can do that much faster than trying to learn the traditional way. This man, the best teacher out there. Well, it's my pleasure. If you know other people who I could help, please send them my way. Sometimes I have a difficulty understanding phrasal verbs. Should I look it up in Google? Well, the best thing really to do is get lots of examples of that. Just search my channel. You will find some phrasal verb videos there that help you understand the way I teach. And it's, again, the way natives would learn the language. And if you want more, you can join us in Fluent for Life, where the visual guide to phrasal verbs is. Would you tell us about your site you create on the web? If you're like, well, for the stuff that we do on YouTube here, you'll see a lot of my videos are trying to help people understand how fluency really develops. And I do teach, words and phrases, but the number one goal is to help you understand really the truth about learning, rather than trying to just study more, where you're trying to study more words and phrases until you think, well, if I know 1,000 words, now I can speak fluently. That doesn't really work. And we know that because people know a lot of vocabulary and still can't speak. But the opposite, where we look at a young child who gets lots of examples of the vocabulary and they eliminate the doubt that they have about that vocabulary, that's when they speak. And so I just recommend you do the same thing. That's how I got fluent in Japanese. That's how I help people get fluent in English. And I've been doing this for 20 years, over 20 years. I did not think I would be like here teaching people, but I really enjoy teaching and seeing people like that. I can't see your face out there, but I can tell when people get something, like just by your comments, or if I'm teaching in a classroom, I can see also. But when people are like, now I got it, So what we do at the website is we take these ideas that we have on YouTube. So there's a lot of content on YouTube, but most of it is really just teaching principles about the language. If you actually want me to get you fluent automatically, that's what we do in our program. So like Visual Guide to Phrasal Verbs or Fluent for Life. So all the hard work is done for you. You don't actually have to go through and try to find lots of information to learn. If you just want to become fluent quickly and really without having to take time or have a person to practice speaking with, anything like that, you just want to eliminate the doubt that stops you from speaking, that's what we do. So I am like, who was that said that? The doubt destroyer. So we want to remove the doubt that stops you from speaking. So typically if people are wondering why they should join a program, when I have so much content on YouTube, you'll notice a lot of this is about the same kinds of themes, like teaching people tips and helping them understand. So maybe some people don't want to join a program, or they like learning by themselves or whatever, that's fine. But for people who want help, who want to get fluent as fast as possible, especially if they need English for their career. A lot of people who are professionals join us, like people who are in government or companies. Those are the people who join my programs because they want to get fluent as fast as possible. They're busy doing other things and they just want someone to tell them how to get fluent and actually. So it's really my job to get you fluent by triggering your brain, the fluent communication switch in your brain, to help you understand something and feel confident about using it. All right, let's see. Elizabeth says, hello, my name is Elizabeth. I started to watch your videos recently. I love your lessons. Glad to hear it. Welcome to the party. Meg says, it's great you were on a Japanese TV show. Is it possible to watch it on YouTube? It hasn't been released yet, so it's not even on television. We just recorded it. But yeah, it was fun. I actually did a video, part of the episode is here in this room. So I was teaching about how to learn. So explaining to them, if you want to become fluent, you have to learn English in English rather than through Japanese. And then we went to a local ramen restaurant. So we're eating, I was introducing a tomato ramen that I like to this guy, and we were talking about that. So it was an entertaining show. We'll see if they release it. I haven't heard anything back, but they were excited to do the show, and we'll see what happens. Maybe it will be available on YouTube. Julio says, I'm sorry to bother. I am from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and very impressed about you. Sincerely. Well, there's no bother at all. Welcome. And again, more Hanguru teacher. I have a question. Take has several meanings, but when do you use it the most? All right, I think we're going to end here because that would go into many different uses of things, but that's the kind of question we answer in the Visual Guide to Phrasal Verbs, because I can take more time, and take you through a nice long explanation and show you many examples of how things work. So again, if you're nervous about a word, check our channel for that, just to get more examples. You can probably find more, but you will find a lot more in Fluent for Life. All right, let's see. Meg says, thanks, please let us know when that happens. Yes, if I find out, when I find out, I will let you know. MBL, thank you for your help, teacher. All right, well, it looks like that is the end of the video. Remember, take more time, go into the vocabulary. If you're uncertain, clear up. There's another phrasal verb for you. Clear up the uncertainty, and you will feel a lot more confident about it. Let's see. Benix says, a few days ago, I happened to watch a few videos with your elder daughter involved. More videos like these. Yes, I'll have to get Aria and Noel back in the videos. We'll see how that goes. All right, have a fantastic day, and we'll see you in the next video. Should be on the 29th. And again, I held up my schedule earlier. I'll put that up here again for you. There you go. You get some Japanese in there as well. So that's the character for Monday. This like first one over here, little character here, and then Thursday. It's a moon and a tree. Isn't that interesting? It's like moon moon and a tree for Monday, like Moon Day. Isn't that interesting? Monday and Moon Day. All right, have a fantastic day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.